about it.
We'd like to get you on record so we can record it.
Yeah, so you'll state your name, and that way we have a little record of it. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, we were looking at it, and we decided that my mom and dad got that land back in the 50s, and we inherited it when they passed away. And they're across the river, buried, and we figured that the city of Safford is growing. Looks like the cemeteries are filling up. So we decided, well, maybe we ought to just do our own and put it in there. We decided it's not around to anybody else. We followed the orders. It's all family. It's 47 acres total. So we decided we'd go in the middle and put a cemetery. So that's about what we did.
Any of you commissioners have any questions?
Okay. Is that for family only?
For right now, yes, sir.
Looking for a spot.
Okay, thank you. I didn't see any letters of opposition. Is there anybody here that is to speak on opposition to this at all?
We got signatures from everybody that was notified, and we heard nothing either way.
Okay.
I feel that this is something that we do all the time for people that have plenty of land out there. And we have it belonging to them in the future.
Do you have anything to add, Steve, as far as anything?
No, it's common occurrence, and I think it should be their right.
I'd like to make a motion favorable to move it forward.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So you'll have another meeting with the Board of Supervisors. I don't know that exact date, but this will be heard again with the Board of Supervisors. Thank you. All right, item number 5, REZ 932-25, APN 104-29-003, 1.7 acres. A request was made by Ryan Layton to rezone from A, general land use, to RR, single family residential. The applicant wants to split the parcel and needs this zoning to do so. Situs address is 3392 West Mullins Lane, Thatcher. In the west end of Mullins Lane on the north side.
Mr. Layton's here, and he probably will speak to this, but that Mullins Lane is a subdivision that was created before there was zoning laws, and nothing in there complies, but Mr. Layton owns the biggest lot on the west end, and there's two similar in size on the east end, but most of the rest of those lots in there are not even the half acre that we today require. But even if he were to split that into 3 pieces, he still have lots bigger than everybody else in the neighborhood. So if he wants to come up and talk to you, and tell you what he's going to do, that'd be a good idea.
Good morning. So, yeah, I inherited this property from my parents when my mom passed a few years ago. And again, it's kind of the biggest piece of property on that end. And as you can see, all the other ones are little, piddly little parcels on there. And then they left me the parcel with basically at this point 2 houses built on it. One was the back one was essentially a double wide trailer that housed my great aunt at the time while they were taking care of her. And then along the points, they basically built on all around it on 3 sides of it so that it's basically a permanent structure at this point. But, and then one of my neighbors, or one of the grandkids of my neighbor, wanted to buy up that eastern side, the part behind my neighbor, because that parcel actually extends behind their property line. Oh, I'm fine. I think you can see it.
See it on our map.
Yeah. And so they wanted to buy part of that part behind that property next to us and a strip next to it, so they had access to it, so that they can build a house back there so that they can take care of their grandmother who lives in the property next door. And so I started looking into what I needed to do to subdivide the property, and then I realized that I was the only property zoned A, and that I needed to even get to this point to even do anything else. So that's kind of where I am. So yeah, I'd like to rezone it RR, and so that I can divide out that back house onto its own parcel, at least half an acre, and zone out the eastern part as its own parcel, at least half an acre.
That'd give, 1.7, so give.
Yeah, it's 1.7, so it'd be half an acre, and then the, whatever, 0.7 would remain on the original, well, would remain in the middle. So, yeah, that's what I'd like to do.
Any questions from the commission?
How would they get access to that?
That back, I would, is that here? So I would give them this stretch of land right here, and then the piece of land that the house actually sits on. So they would have access on that side connecting to the end of Mullins here. That would be my plan. I'd need to, get it surveyed and figure out how easy that is to do, because I know there's not a whole lot, but I think the line, it's kind of hard, but the line does extend somewhere in here. It's hard to tell exactly where it goes to. There's actually like 3 lines here, because the property line, the county line, and the field line, the property line for the field line don't line up. So it's not clear from visual, and I don't know how well these fit on top of the image. So I'd have to get a surveyor out there to see what was possible. But I can't even, there's no point in doing that until it's rezoned.
You say legal, do you mean you're gonna actually get it legalized, that they're gonna get that along with when they buy their property?
That'll be part of it. So, yeah, so.
We'll get legal access.
They'll
You
get,
won't just
that'll
get
be part of the
access.
parcel. That will be part of the parcel that.
It'll have an ingress, egress easement or be.
Right. In fact, for this side, are you talking about this one over here or that one over there? Both? Yeah, both. Well, because we're actually asking for like a good, like 45 to 50 foot frontage on here, included in the parcel that I'm splitting. So I'm probably going to get rid of, this is a metal storage building. I'll probably either move that to a different part of the property or just take it down altogether, and just give them a good portion of this up to probably up against this this driveway. That's my plan. Again, it depends on how everything kind of looks survey-wise. And then I'd probably also give them up to whatever would be reasonable, whatever the legal distance, whatever what do you call easement between the house and whatever that driveway would be. Basically, they would get this driveway that exists here included onto the parcel as part of their property. Yeah, that's my plans right now. You have any other questions?
Any other questions?
Anybody else?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is there any neighbors Speaking of for or against this? No.
Would you want this back here? Or just leave it here?
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
we received no comments either way on this one either.
Okay. Discussion amongst the board. Want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we forward this to the supervisory board of supervisors as favorable.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Likewise, this will go to the board of supervisors in a few weeks. They'll hear the same.
July 7th.
July 7th. Okay, this will be heard again July 7th. Okay, item number 6, REZ 933-25, APN 108-14-008, 20 acres, and 108-14-015, 27 acres, for a total of 47 acres. A request was made by Neil Brooks to rezone from A, general land use, to RMH, residential manufactured home. The applicant wants to develop an RV park. Site is address west of Goodwin Wash, north of Highway 70, east of Black's Lane in Geronimo. Do you have anything to add?
In talking to the county engineer this morning, he asked if he needed to be here. I said, well, do you have any concerns with any of them? He says, well, there's only one that has floodplain on it, and it's just a sliver. And he said, we will deal with that as they come in with a plan. So he didn't have any issues. We did hear from a neighbor who asked some questions, but they didn't indicate whether they were for or against. They just kind of wanted to know what was happening. And outside of that, I don't think we've heard anything. If you want to come up and tell us what your plan is, yeah, good time. I'll leave you this if you need it.
Thank you. I'm Neil Brooks. There's one issue that David Ward had. The other neighbors were real supportive. They all called me and sent me emails. There's only one other one. But he's worried about there's an easement there. Gerald Black had a transite line that cuts across the property that he put in like the 50s. 25 years ago, actually, Rick Moats helped me do it. We put in a plastic line because I was worried about the transite line. Because I sold a bunch of water rights when GVID did the big project, which I don't think they've ever used, but that's for another week. Anyway, because we have really good quality water, but the water on this S70 well was the best water. So I wanted to make sure, because I sold to David Ward, which was Mary Black's old place. So the idea is, and I should have brought pictures, but I planted about 30 acres of pine trees on one of my parcels. We have 459 acres that my family and I own. So the idea was to take those pine trees and put them up by the road, make a really pretty, kind of like, Flagstaff, Prescott looking, really pretty RV park. Because we sold the water, and we still have 500 acre feet that I can only use above ground at the nursery that I built up on top. So we're looking at, we may want to start that up again in a few years. I've had it leased out, different things, but this seems to be, from talking to people in town, a really good use because the RV parks in town are all filled up. And it's just a place where we want to really highly landscape it, make it look real pretty. We have great frontage on the highway, so there's plenty of room. And I started to build site plans. I haven't done that yet. I'll get into that once we know that we can rezone it. So it's really looking at saying, here's a part of town that hasn't had a lot of activity. And we would build this. I have the heavy equipment and stuff. We would build it ourselves, landscape. I want to move about 600 of these 30-foot pine trees so that the place is real shady. So I think it really will be a beautiful addition and give some affordable housing options to Safford.
How many sites are you gonna have?
I don't know, I think we're gonna start real carefully, like on 4 or 5 acres. And I don't know, it really comes down to demand. You know, we'd like to have some amenities. I'd love to put a swimming pool in there or something. I don't know what, we need to really do a market study and find out what people want. This is just step one, to you know, really build a formal site plan. I have plenty of water, because as I said, I've got 6 acre-feet per acre on 78 acres. And we have the pipelines right there. So what David Ward asked me to, we can't, it's never been recorded properly where the easement is. It's in the documents that I did with GVID, but we're actually gonna have to pothole it and find it, because that was his big concern. And they're deep, I'd put them down there 5 feet deep, but we still wanna, but again, I think we're gonna have different sections. We may have sections that are, you know, 10,000 square feet. It really just comes down to coming to all the RV parks around town, seeing what they have and seeing what the demand is.
Your septic system.
Again, there's some really cool natural ways, because the site's big enough, that I've looked at. The other thing to do would just be to have multiple septic tanks. Again, we're not even at that point yet.
Yeah, you just
But
want a
there's
big
some
zone.
natural ways to do it that are real intriguing to me, where you'd build and that's what I would use the floodplain for. See, we could afford to have a 10-acre green belt through it. That's what I like about starting from scratch and having enough room. The floodplain is real limited, and everybody like Gerald and Jason and Ket, they all raise their houses up. You know, it's not that hard, and that's why I picked that, because it's got great access and the floodplain's real limited. But we're barely beginning. We got more questions than answers.
So you'll get that pipe located, surveyed, because you don't, like, as your septic systems, this all gonna be septic, you don't want that to impact that
Yeah.
pipeline, to have any leakage, cross leakage, nor when you put your trees in, you don't want those
You got it.
roots to,
We're gonna be real careful, because the transite line is still working. They're both hooked up. But David and I looked at last week, we don't even know where the water's really coming from. They're both active, because mine was a brand new line, but see, that's 22 years ago when I put it in. Now it's PVC, and it's all the pipe that locks together. I can't even remember, it's not, there's no couplings.
it's got the compression fittings.
Yeah, so
Yeah, that stuff I've seen, irrigating, trees, if they find a little wet spot, those roots will penetrate that real easily.
well, and that's what we're gonna actually have. Ramsey Surveying did the survey.
Have some setbacks with your trees and your septic.
Yeah, well, David thought that it was 15, 20 feet. I think we're gonna make it 30 feet, and we'll make that a roadway. That's why when we do the plan, it'll kind of meander through. But that's what's neat, is that we have plenty of room, plenty of water, and a lot of frontage on the road. So I think we can do something that really stands out, because that's our business, is landscaping and farming. So to really highlight that, we want to take advantage of, because we planted about 20,000 pine trees there. We probably got about 3,000 left. Most of them are up in Morenci. If you ever go to Morenci, we were in Morenci for 10 years building parks and grading and drainage. So that's where all those trees went. It was when they, you know, the mine wanted to cut all the water back. So we had a project there for about 8 years. We removed all the grass, put in desert landscaping, but they allowed us to put in the pine trees. So that's why Morenci's full of pine trees.
So these are gonna be a lot larger,
Yeah, I think that's what
more like making a kind of a Billy retreat.
Yeah, we want to put in, because we have the water, we have the space, and that's what our
Sounds
expertise is. Well, it's the idea is that, and I don't know the number, but everybody says that you can't find a house in Safford. So I don't know if we can have a $99,000, I don't know if we rent them. I have more questions than answers. But we know that we have a good site, we know we have good visibility, and we know the demand is there. The question's gonna be, will people drive? Because I mean, we're 25.
Yeah, and if it's nice, they live more likely.
Well, and that's why we're gonna have to really, you know, put a pretty white fence by the road and put it, even on my site plan, I started to tell Clint how I wanted to put the landscape in, but, because again, that's what we do, that's easy for us to do. So, I think we can make something that really fills a need.
Good place to do it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone from the public to speak for or against this?
And just so you guys are clear, this, if this goes through and then when he came back with a site plan, it would come back to you guys before it would happen anyway. So if you had further questions later, you would get a shot at it.
I was gonna say, should whoever makes a motion, should it reflect that existing pipelines need to be identified, you know, and that they're to protect them?
That's not really a part of zoning, but that is something that our department would insist on anyway, so,
Okay, so don't worry about that.
yeah, I wouldn't put it in there.
I will move that we send a favorable recommendation to the Board of Supervisors.
Second it.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Same thing, was that the 7th of next month?
Yeah,
Board of Supervisors?
yeah, you'll talk to the board on July 7th at 8 o'clock. Well, sometime after 8 o'clock, but that'll be the next meeting, and it'll be similar.
Okay, next item, number 7, REZ 934-25, APN 104-11-017B, 29 acres. A request was made by DMP FP LLC, Eric Swanson, to rezone from A, general land use, to CM, commercial manufacturing. The applicant wants this zoning for future development. Site address is north of Highway 70, east of Steve's Service Center, and west of Graham County Co-op Yard.
The applicant could not be here this morning and asked me to field questions or present, but we have a interested party here that might want to throw some stuff in, but basically the co-op is looking for some ground behind their current yard is what started this conversation. So I don't know how much they're looking for, but I guess it's a significant piece of that. And they need to expand their laydown yard. And then Valley Telecom asked about getting a piece of it also. I think originally they were thinking only do the field to the east, but they realized that the need for laydown yards there's a lot of it. So I think they're gonna turn all of this into that type of commercial, maybe with some warehouses, but mostly a place to, you know, stack power poles and wire spools and that kind of stuff. I don't know yet, but they need the zoning to go forward with it. So if you have questions, I'll try to answer them. And
Is there many homes in there?
there's
Nothing that they put there then.
Just these ones.
Eric spoke with Steve Peterson and sounded like he was all up for it. And I don't know about the people who bought Ted Prina's house, but that's the next closest place. And they're aware of it. So, and we didn't hear from anybody for or against. And Rusty's here if he wants to say something, but
If anybody, so at this point, anybody that wants to speak for or against this would come forward, state your name.
I'm Rusty Sherman with Graham County Electric Co-op. I'm representing them today, as well as one of the closest property owners to this parcel. And we are not opposed on either side and in favor of the proposed rezoning of this property. As Steve mentioned, Graham County Electric is in talks looking to potentially acquire some of this property that's getting rezoned. like I said, we'll see how that, unfolds, but we have shown interest, and like I said, we are closely working with Mr. Swanson, and like I said, and are in favor of the rezoning. And like I said, I have the property to the north of the highway, and again, I'm in favor or do not oppose the rezoning. Is there any questions? Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Thank you, Rusty. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak to this issue, to this item?
Mr. Swanson talked to me this morning and said he hoped Mr. Peterson came in because he was very in favor of and hoped but he said he doubted he would show up, but he spoke to him for 3 hours last week, and other than that, we've heard nothing either way on this. And as the supervisors have always said, they want their commercial along the highway, so there you.
So we agree.
Hate to see the farmland go, but that's along the highway. That's where commercial property needs to be.
Says the man that builds houses. It's a good thing.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we have some items to be set up for public hearing. The first item is REZ 935-25, APN 106-12-061B, 1.5 acres, and APN 106-12-061C, 1.5 acres for 3 acres total. A request was made by KMS Enterprises to rezone from A general land use to RR single family residential. The applicant needs 20,000 square foot lot minimum, site address 6326 South Lebanon Loop Road, Safford, west of Lebanon Loop Road, north of Cactus Road, south of Elmer Lane.
Let me just, I know you're gonna set it up, but let me just, there's a recurring theme here on all 3 of these, and it's gonna get more and more prevalent. Realtors and developers are buying up existing properties with possibly a home already on them, and then rezoning and splitting them down so they have building lots. Property's hard to come by, it's getting worse, and that's what you're seeing here is anybody who's got either water or sewer can take a 1 acre lot or larger and cut it down to half acres and be okay. So all 3 of these are asking for that same thing. They want to go down to half acre lots so they have an extra piece of property to build on. Other than that, I don't really have any comments.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to set this up for our next meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Thank you. Next item is REZ 936-25, APN 107-45-016, 1.1 acres. A request was made by Joe Hernandez to rezone from A general land use to RR single family residential. The applicant wants to install a new manufactured home. Situs address is 1643 South Church Street. It's in San Jose. It's not in Safford. East of Church Street, north of Molina Drive, south of Alvear Road.
I'd like to make a motion to set this up for our next meeting.
Second.
further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, REZ 937-25, APN 105-02-054, 3.5 acres. A request was made by Leslie and Michael Orr to rezone a portion from A, general land use, to RR, single-family residential. The applicant wants to split the land and have 1/2 acre portion. Site address is 7356 West Safford Bryce Road, Pima, north of Safford Bryce Road, west of Bryce Eden Road.
And just for clarification, I want to bring your attention to that. They want 1/2 acre portion. They are not rezoning the entire parcel. They're rezoning the 1/2 acre that they wish to create out of. The rest of them are 1 acre lots.
I'd like to make a motion to set this up for our next meeting.
Second.
Any discussion, further discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, that concludes our public hearings and setup items. Steve, do you have any other business?
I don't know how well we went into in our last meeting because we didn't set anything up for last time. But I don't know that I went over these things that happened in the previous meeting. Jeff Green's thing in Central for splitting his lot and building another house on the back was approved. Donovan Kerr rezoned from special development to AR3 out near the monastery. That was approved. The Guy Nolan rezone off of Robinson Ranch Road was withdrawn. And I think I want to tell you kind of why. There's a new law, we call it the Casita Law, that allows you to do kind of what he was wanting to do anyway without going through all this. So you'll hear more about it later. It goes into effect January 1st, I believe.
And is it statewide?
It is statewide. And it applies to counties, cities, everybody. It's a little different for cities than it is for counties, but it's relatively the same. And it allows for on any buildable lot, you cannot tell them that they can't build an additional dwelling unit on it. Sometimes 2 and sometimes even 3, depending on the size of the lot and how much septic they can make work. But it's going to get interesting. So
So who monitors that?
we're going to have to. The law says we will have rules and regulations in place by January 1st and start enforcing it. But the whole law is you cannot stop this, you cannot stop that. I mean, there's almost no other than septic and setbacks, we almost can't regulate it.
Yeah, septic
And
and setbacks is the only thing that'll.
Where our normal setbacks for fire code are 10 feet from your property line, this one has moved it down to 5.
Wow.
So we're gonna have it's gonna get,
What about square footage size?
their maximum, it's based on, it can be 75%, don't quote me on this, but I think it's 75% of the main dwelling or 1,000 square foot, whichever is least. Does that sound right? Yeah. So they're not gonna be over 1,000 square feet, but this is gonna kind of kill our mother-in-law's quarters that's 900 square feet. They're all gonna turn into 1,000 square feet and they are gonna become rentable, and we can't tell them what it has to look like. We can't make them match the house. We can't tell them it has to be a family member living there. We can't tell them they have to have additional parking. I mean, there's a whole lot of we can'ts, and we'll get it figured out and we'll make it work. But
Do they have to have their own septic and water maybe?
they have to comply with septic. I don't know that, I mean, if you can get both the house and the septic that's there and the additional fixture count to work, if the health department says it's gonna work, we'll have to let it work.
And they can all be on the same septic?
But they're gonna be on the same
You're
property.
saying if they have a septic tank for a 4-bedroom house, okay, and the house is only like 3-bedroom and this casino thing is 1 bedroom, so they could still use that septic?
If the fixture count and everything works with the health department, they're gonna be allowed to.
What about if it's in when you buy your property, and this section says that you can only have one thing on this?
There's
It's over.
homeowners associations are fighting it, and deed restrictions are in legal battles right now, so we don't know how exactly that's gonna turn out, but it's written in there that you can't stop them. Yeah, it basically says in single-family residential zoning, you have to allow a detached accessory structure, an attached accessory structure, and if you have over an acre, you have to allow a third detached. So you could have one attached to your house and 2 additional in a 1-acre lot, if you could make all the septic work. Or if you had sewer.
Or the city,
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna impact cities more than it is.
What's the lot size for that?
There's not one. It says if you allowed one to be built already, then adding these we have no say.
But it's still fighting out in court.
It's
happening.
It's happening.
It's happening.
Less government.
Progress.
Yeah.
There's one other here, the request that was made by Tom Palmer and got quite a bit of talk on Alder Lane. That went to the board, and rather than the 10,000 square feet he wanted, he got 20,000 square feet, which gave him enough space to get 5 half-acre lots on there rather than potentially 10. But now with this casita law, he can put his 10 on there anyway. But that is what happened with that one, and I think that was 2 months ago. They just basically told him he could only make 5 splits out of it.
It's taken a lot of the local control away from communities.
Oh,
Yes. There's another rule in the books that I don't know if it's passed and been signed by the governor yet, but the public hearings are out the window. This commission may go away.
That takes
And
all
what are we
local
gonna do?
control away from the communities.
Yeah, that's what they're pushing for.
And the developers rule.
Or they're not developers.
Huh.
But that's all I've got as far as what's happened previously.
Okay, anything else? Meeting adjourned, thank you.
Interesting.